What? They call it Londinistan. People are so angry there.
Who calls it that?
It's a boiling
Who
pot.
calls it that?
Hang on.
Who calls it that?
Our people don't want mass migration. The people in the UK don't want mass migration. And my GDP argument is not going to help you with that.
They've been sold a lie about mass immigration because you can go on our government website. You can go on our government website now, the .gov website now, and you will see the very long list of empty jobs.
TPUSA moved a lot more towards the positions of Nick Fuentes than Nick Fuentes moved towards the positions of TPUSA, and that's a fact.
We continue to need mass migration to grow our economy. It's a very basic fact.
It is not.
I would argue, I think young people are frustrated because the administration hasn't yet been conservative enough with the expectation of governance on offense that young people resoundingly vote returning President Trump to the Oval Office.
I accept that there is regular immigration and irregular immigration. I do not accept that human beings are illegal.
Now every single time a reporter asks him about it, he attacks them or they're Miss Piggy. He's unraveling by the day. We all know why Donald Trump doesn't want anybody talking about the Epstein files.
We're talking about lives. We're talking about people who have lost their lives because they are seeking a better life.
Like, you just said a bunch of stuff that wasn't true.
The suggestion that President Trump is somehow unraveling before our very eyes, I think is really shallow and very silly.
The idea that this is the most transparent president and administration in years is absolutely absurd.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, as you can tell, I'm still on vacation and will be on vacation for the next week. And the videos will be coming, but they're not going to be as frequent as usual. So get ready for that. But I've got another Piers Morgan Uncensored coming down the pipeline for you guys. So we're going to get into all kind of things. We're going to get into Trump being mean to journalists. Oh, yeah, that's so great. Immigration, all kind of nonsense. And we got Andrew Wilson coming in, Brian Shapiro, and a couple other side characters. Calling them side characters is just funny, so I do it. But yeah, this is going to be great. So you guys make sure and smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new around here. Share this video anywhere and everywhere you can. Click the join button. Sign up and become a member, because that's the best way to help this channel expand and grow. And check out my regular videos if you guys are interested in politics and knowing what's going on in the world and how you're being manipulated by corporate press news articles. Yeah. Stay tuned. This is the best channel for that, folks. But without any further ado, here we go.
Let's look at Trump here. And I do think, unfortunately, this kind of is the end of, and I say unfortunately, not because I care, truly, but I say unfortunately because it seems to not be doing anything good for anyone. This is the end of the Trump administration. This is the beginning of the lame duck presidency.
Well, join me to debate all this are Andrew Wilson, host of The Crucible, Isabel Brown, host of the Daily Wire's Isabel Brown Show, the lawyer and commentator Paula Roan Adrian, and Brian Shapiro, host of Pushing the Limits. Well, welcome to all of you. A perfect panel to dissect all this stuff. Let's start. Andrew Wilson, is it over for Trump? Has he lost the manosphere, the broligarchy, and is that therefore the tipping point for the beginning of the end?
No, he hasn't lost it. The thing is unless Trump, the main thing Trump needs to focus on is mass migration. That's what people put him in office for. That's what people want to see. They want to see him address that singular issue, especially the younger voters, especially the younger men. Until he does that, he's going to always be slipping in polls with them, and he's going to be slipping in polls with his base, period. That's what he's there to do. So Tim Dillon's point that he's making here, he says, look, he's losing support for younger men. That is true. He does need to address the mass migration issue. That's the issue of the time, and that's what people put him there for.
Yeah, Brian Shapiro, I mean, on immigration, many would say that what he's done on the southern border has been a big success. They would agree broadly with the principle of deporting undocumented people in the United States who commit other crimes, separate to their visa status. Where the big flashpoint has been over just rounding up people who are undocumented and either threatening or deporting them. But, you know, I would say his base have been quite happy largely with what he's done there. One of the big things that's become a stick to beat him with is this whole issue of transparency, be it on the Epstein files, be it on, you know, the JFK files, be it on the murder of Charlie Kirk, all these things, there's become a sort of running sore of a lot of MAGA people saying we're not getting the full transparency we were sure we get on all this stuff. How damaging has that been, do you think?
I think it's extremely damaging, Piers. The idea that this is the most transparent president and administration in years is absolutely absurd. They campaigned on it. Donald Trump and so many of his supporters released the Epstein files. We saw what they did with Jack Posobiec and so many other Trump supporters out there in D.C. with the binders. We know what Pam Bondi said. Now, every single time a reporter asks him about it, he attacks them or they're Miss Piggy. He's unraveling by the day. We all know why Donald Trump doesn't want anybody talking about the Epstein files. We know why. Because he's all over them and he has something to hide. The entire administration has been hiding this for him. Pam Bondi, including Kash Patel, who was asked under oath 7 times, did you tell Pam Bondi that Trump is in the Epstein files? Couldn't even answer the question. So the idea that this administration is transparent is like saying that the earth is flat, Piers.
All right, Isabel, I saw you putting expressions that suggest you didn't entirely agree with that thesis. So your response?
Well, of course, transparency should be important to every American of every background, and we should be fighting for that in any presidential administration. Those of us who have been paying attention for years, Piers, were asking where the heck is the president of the United States at 2:00 p.m. every day under the Biden admin, when seemingly he went to the residence to take a nap and called a lid on the media almost every single day in the press briefing room. So regardless of where you fall in the political spectrum, it's something important to fight for. But the suggestion that President Trump is somehow unraveling before our very eyes, I think is really shallow and very silly. What's interesting to me is people are noting a dip in an approval rating among the Trump administration, specifically zooming in on young people. And from my perspective, I think we're really missing the mark on why that dip in approval rating is happening. It's not because young people are abandoning the cause of MAGA or being America first or suddenly jumping ship to embrace the Zohran Mamdanis and radical socialists of the world. Rather, I would argue, I think young people are frustrated because the administration hasn't yet been conservative enough with the expectation of governance on offense that young people resoundingly voted returning President Trump to the Oval Office. People are looking for an immigration moratorium, giving H-1B visa job opportunities to American citizens. We're looking for more mass deportations. We're looking for the ability to buy a home so that we can revive the American family again. And we are seeing the baby steps to get there start happening at the White House, but we're looking for a full court press ahead, not just baby steps.
And Paula, before I come to you,
she's right.
I just want to ask,
Andrew,
I just want to ask Andrew specifically, actually, about Nick Fuentes' role in all this, because he is gathering a lot of momentum, indisputably, capitalizing on all this. How significant is he in this ongoing debate?
I mean, he's really significant, and that's the truth. And I'll point something out that is also true. TPUSA moved a lot more towards the positions of Nick Fuentes than Nick Fuentes moved towards the positions of TPUSA, and that's a fact. That's an uncontroversial fact at this point. Now, do I agree with everything that Nick says? No, I don't need to. He doesn't agree with everything I say either. But he is right about this. Until this administration addresses mass migration, the issue of our time, and the issue of the people in the UK, their time as well, he's going to continue to be more unpopular and move down in the polls. It's not about transparency or the Epstein files. She's absolutely right. It's about conservative issues. And we need to see Trump take a more conservative approach to the things that we want. That's what we want.
I just love how Brian comes in and posits that the reason Trump's approval rating is failing is because the Epstein files. It's always about the Epstein files. You know, he says he's not a Democrat, but he's absolutely lying. He's a flaming liberal, flaming leftists. And, you know, these people they just, don't really pay close enough attention. You know, Brian pays too close to attention to things that, I don't know, like the Epstein files, to things he shouldn't be paying attention to. You know, the Democrats have placed the Epstein files at the forefront like this is everything. The administration has been transparent, but it's not all about transparency. They've been more transparent than the Biden administration absolutely was, because we had no idea a lot of the things that the Biden administration was doing behind the scenes, in other words, behind our backs, like spying on American citizens like you. But, you know, they get to a broader point here. You know, Nick Fuentes is saying a lot of things that are quite based. We don't always agree with everything. That's the problem with the big tent, folks. And that's what MAGA was. And this is the point a lot of people are missing, is that, you know, Donald Trump was this brazen guy, you know, a bull in a china shop or whatever, and he would come in and say whatever he wants. He would speak his mind with complete disregard for the fallout of that, and Americans love that. But it wasn't only that, right? It was the fact that he would come in, say whatever the hell he wanted to, and then just walk off. It was the fact of, what are we looking at here? Americans saw the two alternatives. They saw Kamala Harris and a continuation of what Joe Biden was doing, and they said, no, we don't want that. So they said, we're going to vote for Donald Trump. We might not agree with Trump. We probably don't even like Trump, to be honest with you, right? But we're going to vote for this man anyway, because screw the alternative. The alternative was way worse than anything Donald Trump can bring. And now that Donald Trump gets into office, they don't like what's going on. But I think a lot more of that is people aren't paying close enough attention to what's actually going on, right? Like talking about the immigration issue or whatever. Like people are saying, you know, Trump's not being conservative enough. What do you mean by that? He's trying to overturn birthright citizenship. He's launched the biggest deportation in American history. He's trying to, but the thing is, the problem with this is all these activist judges in the courts. He's being stopped at every single angle. He's not being allowed to implement his vision for the country. He's being blocked, right? And these Democrats, these liberals are getting out there and they're putting up hundreds of millions of dollars into the court system to stop Donald Trump from implementing what the American people want. That's the problem here. It's not the problem that, you know, Trump hasn't released the Epstein files or anything like that. And I know I've got some people in the comment section that are going to whine and complain about the Epstein files and all that stuff, but nobody even cares about that anymore, because anything of any relevancy in the Epstein files has either been destroyed or it's being sealed by the federal courts. That's the main reason the files weren't put out in the first place, folks. That is the main reason for that. So, you know, I could care less about the Epstein files. We're never going to get justice for the victims or anything like that. So I really don't care anymore. It's a non-issue with me, to be honest with you. Not anymore. We did care about that because we wanted to know who were all the powerful people involved. But we're never going to get the answers to that because they are being protected by the federal circuit. They put a seal not only on the pertinent information that could give us, you know, through the looking glass into the mind's eye or whatever of what was going on with that situation, but they've stopped any sort of future prosecutions of anybody that was involved with trafficking young girls or abusing young girls, to be frank. It's all absurd. And these people just consistently yelling about this just makes them look dumb, in my opinion. Let's keep going.
We're a month to go.
Right, but I think it's a new record, right? This is from Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister promised to smash the gangs.
I just think we need to be careful, though. This is exactly the point, isn't it? That we need to be careful when we're talking about figures. What we're actually talking about is human beings. We're talking about lives. We're talking about people who have lost their lives because they are seeking a better life and because
hang on.
opportunity.
We found out. Paul,
let's not conflate
you are conflating two
refugee and asylum seekers with those who are seeking to make a better life for themselves, and the opportunity for them to do that is either limited or severely restricted.
What about those who are simply gaming the system? There was a purge, for example, specifically with people coming into Britain illegally from Albania. Turned out 15,000 Albanians in 1 year were just coming over, who were young, perfectly fit, healthy people, male predominantly, who wanted to get a better economic life for themselves. They're not asylum seekers. They're not refugees. They're people who live in Albania who just want to come and try their luck in the UK. I don't blame them for trying, but a system that just allows 15,000 to come in as we did in that way, and we had a word with the Albanian government, did a deal, and suddenly it was stopped.
I'm intrigued that you don't blame them for trying, because of course you understand what it is to have ambition.
No, I don't blame people. Paula,
you know,
I don't blame people for trying to get...
I'm grateful that you said that.
Let me clear. Hang on. let me be clear. I don't blame anyone for trying their luck, right? The world is full of people that do that. But
multi-millionaires and billionaires who try their luck.
But as Ronald Reagan so rightly put it, if you don't have a border, you don't have a country, right? And that is obviously true. And the way that we in the UK have tried to manage our border has been ridiculous. I mean, there's a great irony today that new figures came out about legal immigration numbers, which are now falling quite precipitously in the UK from a net migration in 2023 of nearly 1 million people in a country of just under 70 million. So a vast number of people coming in with the government's endorsement who were coming in legally, mainly people we wanted to come in, bringing in all sorts of dependents. So nearly 1 million people in 1 year, obviously completely unsustainable on already creaking public services. And what's happened in the last year since the Labour government came into power? I think nearly 500,000 people have left the country, right? They've just said, we're out of here because this is no longer an attractive place to live.
Who has made...
So in a way, the immigration issue is being resolved by people literally fleeing Britain to avoid the calamitous state of the country right now.
Who has made those people feel so unwelcome?
They keep voting against this. They keep voting against this. They keep voting against mass migration, and they keep being ignored. And they've been voting against it, for 30, 40 years. And
because
they just
they've been
keep
sold
being
a lie.
ignored.
They've been sold a lie about mass immigration because you can go on our government website. You can go on our government website now, the .gov website now, and you will see the very long list of empty jobs that are desperately required to be filled. So we can talk about jobs from our construction industry,
Lady, they call it Londinistan.
to our care industry, to our medical industry, to vets.
What are you talking? What? They call it Londinistan. People are so angry there.
Who calls it that?
It's a boiling pot.
Who calls it that?
Hang on.
Who calls it that?
It's a boiling pot.
Who calls it that?
And the thing is like, it can be totally avoided. It can be totally avoided if you follow the actual will. Hang on. If you followed your actual will of your own people who consistently vote against this stuff. And you guys use every back door in the world to ignore them anyway, even though your own people are like, we don't want it anymore. They've consistently voted against it, and the UK government consistently betrays them.
I don't know who calls it that name, and I don't know who you're referencing when you say your people.
You've never heard that, huh?
But what I do understand is that we have been consistently misled about the importance of immigration, about why we need people to come to this country and to your great nation to work. We see that in your farmers, for example, who are struggling to get their crops in, who are losing money over and over and over because they do not have the workforce to replace it with those that have lost. And when we talk about, Piers, the people who have departed from this great nation, why is it? Well, it's the same thing that we saw with Brexit, wasn't it? When we saw the great Polish workers and the Romanians, etc., leaving in droves because they were chased away by the blatant racism, the outrageous behaviour that they were receiving.
We can address the point. Like you just said a bunch of stuff that wasn't true. What actually happens is not that we need more illegal immigrants, especially here in the United States. What happens with these farmers is they get massive subsidies. The will of the people is that we don't want mass migration, and a country is made up of its people. Our people don't want mass migration. The people in the UK don't want mass migration, and my GDP argument is not going to help you with that. You understand?
Every country,
there's more important things than second-class slave laborers to fill your pockets.
Of mass migration.
They don't want mass migration.
Every country has grown great from mass migration.
But Paula,
to deny that is misleading society.
It's not misleading.
We continue to need mass migration to grow our economy. It's a very basic fact.
It is not misleading to say we have let too many people come into Britain, both illegally and legally, in the last few years.
You would agree with that? I accept that there is regular immigration and irregular immigration. I do not accept that human beings are illegal.
All right, I agree with you about Brexit. I voted against Brexit. My worst fears are being materialized.
I just love that argument, by the way. Oh, there's no human is illegal. Yeah, that's not what we're saying, by the way. We're saying that they came into the country illegally, right? Most people in this country, sure, there's a segment that doesn't want any migration. They want a moratorium or whatever. But most average, everyday Americans, they say, yeah, sure, come one, come all through the legal process. And that's what we need. We do need people coming in. We do need to grow this country. But we also need those people to melt into the pot. We don't need a bunch of frogs boiling in a pot. Like, that's not going to work, folks. We need these people to come in the proper way, right? And assimilate into the culture. We do have a culture. The UK has a culture. Every country has a culture. And that culture must be maintained for society to function properly, right? Societies break down when that society is shattered apart through mass illegal migration, right? This is the problem, folks. Nobody dislikes a migrant. But these people that are coming into the country illegally, we don't know who these people are. We don't know why they're in this country. They come in and they start doing illegal activities, committing crimes and doing all this other nonsense because they're not vetted. And that's a problem. You got to vet these people. We need to know who's coming into the country because we could be allowing millions of criminals into this country. We just don't know. But there's all kind of different aspects we could discuss here. Like, you know, these people come in and they'll work these jobs for lower than standard wages, right? I hate this argument that, oh, well, what about the farmers? You need the migrants to pick the crops or whatever. And that's like, oh, come on, you're being ridiculous here. Americans will do these jobs. And why do I say that? Because what did we do before mass migration? We did those jobs, as a matter of fact. The problem is what Andrew Wilson was saying, like with the government subsidies or whatever. They want to pay these people. They're trying to make the most amount of money they can possibly make. And no, I'm sorry. Look, your profits are not the first thing that matters here. They're trying to profit as much as possible, these giant corporations. You get a small mom and pop farm or whatever, they produce whatever they produce. They don't make a whole hell of a lot of money. They're going to pay a good wage to somebody that, you know, a citizen of this country or somebody that's trying to become a citizen of this country. They're going to pay a standard wage. These people coming in illegally, they don't want to pay taxes because they don't want to know the government's here. So they'll work for less than standard wages. They'll work these cheap jobs. And now you have this whole subclass of second-class citizens that can't vote. They don't pay taxes. They don't get Medicare, Medicaid, or anything like that, even though some of the blue states that are trying to give these people, that's another issue that we're having to deal with. This is part of the reason why Obamacare is failing, is because blue states are subsidizing criminal alien health care, for crying out loud, and there's not enough people to pay into the system to pay all these people for their health care and all that, to pay out of the system, essentially. So, you know, there's several problems here stacked on top of each other. Not just that these people are coming in illegally, right? No person is illegal. She's right about that. But you can commit a crime when entering a country illegally because you went outside of a port of entry. You tried to evade whatever border patrol you may have. Like, why would somebody do that in the first place? That's why I say these people don't want a better life. You don't start off on the right foot, on the wrong foot. I'm sorry, that's just not how that works. You can't enter a country illegally. The people don't want that. We love migration in this country in particular. We've had a lot of mass migration, and people haven't had a problem with that for the most part, right? So it's not that, it's the illegal migration that we have a problem with, because you get these murderers coming in, these assaulters and all these other people, and we don't want that. These are preventable crimes that shouldn't happen in the first place, because we decided as a society, I guess, that we were just going to allow anybody and everybody to come in, and we allowed very many bad people to come into this country, and they have damaged our nation beyond repair, I think, at this point. You know, we can come back from this, but we'll never be the same. It's irreparable harm has been caused to this country by the illegal immigrants that have come in and flooded this nation under the Biden administration. 15 million criminal aliens is far too many, folks. That is on top of the regular legal migration of people that come into this country. You know, there's this whole H-1B fight going on right now, and Donald Trump says, you know, to bring back manufacturing we've lost the ability, we've lost the knowledge of how to run some of these factories. So Donald Trump wants to bring in these people to teach us how to build whatever it is we're going to build. And that's it. And people are getting mad about that. I say, let's do it. If these people are willing to come in. That's the thing, though. They must be willing to assimilate into our culture if they're going to stay here. If they are just coming for 6, 8 months, a year, 2 years at the most, to teach Americans how to do a job, we build a factory and teach Americans how to do these jobs, I'm totally fine with that. People seem to have a problem with that because that H-1B system has been abused so much, and people are like, they're just abusing the system, and we're creating indentured servants and all this other nonsense, and they don't really see the vision of what Trump is trying to do. And Trump isn't a very articulate man. I mean, he can rebut, a reporter or whatever, but that's about it. He's not very articulable. So he needs somebody to articulate these positions correctly, that we are trying to get people to come in to teach us how to do these jobs. That's the whole H-1B thing, right? But, there's all these other visas that we use as well. And I think too many people have been abusing that system. I think it needs to be completely restructured, in my opinion. But let's keep going.
I'm sorry, Pierre. I was just going to say it's interesting that she didn't answer the original question, which was, do you feel Donald Trump has fulfilled his promises? I didn't get an answer from her on that. And I just want to, if I can respond to that real quickly, is the war over in 24 hours? I'm just curious, have prices been plummeting, or has inflation been up for the last 5 months? How have those jobs reports been? I'm just wondering, I'm just curious, is there peace in the Middle East? Remember when he said there was peace a few weeks ago and we had a ceasefire deal? I mean, the only promise he really kept was he was going to, pardon a bunch of January 6th insurrectionists, some of whom beat police officers with their own batons. Some of them are back in jail. So I noticed she didn't answer that question. The bottom line is he hasn't fulfilled almost any of his promises. And when things go bad, he insults reporters. When things go bad, he blames Joe Biden. He blames Pete Buttigieg. He blames Barack Obama. He blames George Soros. That's why.
Well, on that point about him insulting reporters, his sort of ongoing battle with the media rages on. I want to play a comment where he actually called a female reporter piggy. Let's take a listen to this.
There's nothing incriminating in the file, sir.
Brian, what did you feel when you watched that?
I'm absolutely repulsed by that. First of all, he's the president of the United States. To call somebody Miss Piggy, he's supposed to be a leader. He is supposed to lead the way and, in a sense, be a role model to many out there and be professional. You're the president. It's beneath the presidency. Every single time somebody asks Donald Trump a question that he doesn't want to answer, for example, the Epstein files, he asked, who are you with? Where are you from? You're fake news. And then he attacks them and threatens them.
Well, let's take a look at that clip too, because the two go hand in hand in a way. Another female journalist. Let's take a look at that clip from the Oval Office.
It's not the question that I mind, it's your attitude. I think you are a terrible reporter. It's the way you ask these questions. You start off with a man who's highly respected, asking him a horrible, insubordinate, and just a terrible question. And you could even ask that same exact question nicely. You're all psyched, or somebody psychs you over at ABC, they're going to psych it. You're a terrible person and a terrible reporter. As far as the Epstein files is, I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. I threw him out of my club many years ago because I thought he was a sick pervert. But I guess I turned out to be right.
Now, the White House released a statement saying about the piggy comment. This reporter behaved in an inappropriate and unprofessional way towards their colleagues on the plane. If you're going to give it, you have to be able to take it. One of the theories behind that statement being that the reason he called her Piggy was she was asking too many questions and was being a greedy pig. He didn't actually say Miss Piggy. Brian, your response to that rationale?
Let me respond to that first, and then the last clip you just played. First of all, even if that was true, which I don't think it was, a president would say, hey, I want to give other people a chance to ask questions, or I have no comment on that.
But
Please
Donald Trump's never going to do that. That's not why he got elected.
Because he's repulsive. That's why. Now, going back to that clip that you just played, that reporter asked two very good questions. The Saudi prince was sitting right next to Donald Trump. Our own FBI concluded in an investigation that he was responsible for the murder of an innocent journalist. That's a good question. The second good question she asked, respectfully, by the way, why won't you just release the Epstein files today? Why do you need all these Republicans' approval on it? She asked it respectfully. And even if she was disrespectful, if you don't want to answer the question, then just say, next question. Can you imagine if, I'm going to tell you something, if Joe Biden or Barack Obama called reporters Miss Piggy, or if Barack Obama or Joe Biden, or quite frankly, any Democrat answered a question in that fashion, I'd be calling them out as well. But MAGA Republicans, so many of them don't seem to have any problem with that. It's beneath the presidency.
Okay.
He proves it every single day.
Yes, and it's actually refreshing to me to see somebody in a position of power actually push back against the fake news, right? This is what I do, right? I cover news, and since I've started doing this, my eyes have been opened to just how manipulative the fake news machine is, right? They are very, very manipulative, folks. So Donald Trump pushing back against these people, right? Once again, like he's saying, oh, it's the apocalypse because Donald Trump called a reporter piggy. I find that funny because they have called him every freaking name in the book. As a matter of fact, Andrew Wilson is about to expound upon this, and I'm going to let him cook here in a second. I just wanted to address that because, you know, the fake news machine is constantly putting this narrative out there that Donald Trump is this evil orange man, and then they come and try to ask questions, and they get all mad. They get all butthurt because he calls them horrible people. And it's the truth. And I'm sorry if you find that offensive. I don't care. If these people find Trump's comments offensive, be offended. That's what I have to say about that. Why don't you crawl back into your shell and quit? Get out of the business if that offends you, right? I'm sorry. I think it's refreshing that the President of the United States calls a reporter piggy or says you're a horrible person because you promote evil. You are a whole part of this whole evil scheme that the media has turned into, to where they manipulate half of the country, they tell them lies on a consistent basis, and they don't care about the ramifications of any of that. They've got this country divided. Yeah, that's the bifurcation, by the way. It's not that, you know, these people like immigration and these people don't like immigration. No, it's the fact of people that are a little bit skeptical about the media and will look past the headline and actually find out what's going on, and people who just appeal to authority. That's the bifurcation. It's not ideology, for crying out loud. Like, sure, that's some of it, but if you think back to like the 80s, Republicans and Democrats, they didn't disagree on very much, like tax policy and abortion, things of that nature. But those things we could compromise and work out. The way this country is headed right now, there is no reconciliation with a lot of these people. You can't reconcile with somebody that everything they believe is antithetical to everything you believe. It's really hard to reconcile with that. But let's keep going because Andrew Wilson is about to cook.
Let me ask Andrew what your thought is of the piggy comment in particular.
Yeah, who cares? These people call him a fascist. They call him a rapist. They say that he tried to screw his own daughter. They call him every name under the sun. And suddenly, oh, it's beneath him. You know, it's beneath. It's beneath the president. I bet you if I went back and looked at this guy's content, he's probably called him a fascist. He's probably called him a dictator. He's probably said that he's a rapist. He's probably said all of these things. And so the thing is like, hang on, man. I didn't interrupt you once. Hey, I didn't interrupt you once. It's beneath your station to interrupt me. It's beneath your station to interrupt me, sir. It's beneath your station. So the thing is like,
things about me that aren't true.
Calm down. Can I at least finish and then you can rebut? So the thing is that they call him everything under the sun, and this guy says one thing crashed anybody, and everybody loses their mind. It's like, these are not good faith actors at all. This guy knows, even if he specifically hasn't, his entire party has been calling this guy a fascist and everything else, and a totalitarian dictator, and saying that he's a rapist, saying that he's a multiple felon, and they do all of this and run these hit pieces on Trump. So, of course, occasionally he gets upset and he says something back, and then suddenly it's like, oh, it's beneath your office. It's not beneath the office of any of these newspapers to consistently bash this guy 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
All right, Paula, your response.
I'm slightly confused. Your president is a convicted felon. Am I right about that? And secondly, he was found to have, and I don't want to get this wrong, so Piers, I'm sure you correct me, sexually assaulted a journalist. Was it E.J. Carroll? Again, forgive me if I've got... Yes, thank you. And she won damages for millions and millions of dollars.
In a civil case.
In a civil case, that's right. So a finding was made by 12 of his peers.
Right, but the criminal conviction... Yeah, but Paula, the criminal conviction, just to be clear... Well, just to be clear, on the criminal conviction, for example, I do think that was an utter farce. They dragged a former president through a criminal court for shuffling a bit of paperwork to potentially hide something he says didn't happen, but hide an alleged one-night stand with a porn star 20 years before. That was demeaning to the American system.
If you want to dismiss
the
American criminal justice system, that's a matter for you. I'm just responding to what you're...
Can I just respond real quickly to what he said, if that's okay, Piers?
Sure.
First of all, I don't represent the Democrat Party. You have no idea what you're talking about. I'm not even a Democrat. Number two, I've never called Donald Trump a fascist. I don't like the word Nazi. I don't use that as well. Number three, Donald Trump called Kamala Harris a fascist multiple times on the campaign trail. I didn't hear you complaining about that. Number four, I don't know which people you're referring to, but the buck stops with the guy who's the president of the United States. Now, I'm not saying this is World War III when he calls somebody Miss Piggy. What I am saying is it's beneath the presidency. And you make all these excuses and you curl up into your MAGA pretzel like you MAGA supporters always do. Why can't you just say, hey, guess what? He probably shouldn't have responded that way. It's wrong. This isn't the first time either.
Let me answer your question. Yeah, sure. I'll answer your question because I think it's good. I think it's good that this guy rips these reporters to shreds. I think it's good that he pushes back a little bit in culture. And the reason that he was elected was, hang on. Do you want me to answer the question or not? The reason that he pushes back is because that's what we have him there to do. He's designed to push back against the culture, against the lying mainstream media, who has been lying nonstop since COVID-19. And the thing is we know that now, don't we? Because we know for sure that there was all sorts of political pressure put on by the Biden campaign to remove stories that they didn't like about C-19 and things like this. We know for sure that, and that's what this guy is there for. He's there literally to push back against the mainstream narrative.
Excuse me for interrupting you both.
I'm almost done, dude. I'm almost done. Calm down.
Excuse me for interrupting you both. What I'm trying to understand from this...
You can't help yourself.
It's beneath
your office to do this. It's beneath your office to interrupt me.
Forgive me for interrupting you both, but what I'm trying to understand, and I think has been raised, is you can push back. No one's saying that you can't push back, but push back with an answer. Answer the question. That's your pushback, surely. And without an answer to the question,
you're wanting, Paula, you're wanting Donald Trump to behave like a conventional president.
He did push back with an answer.
The one thing we know about Donald Trump is
I threw him out of a club.
See, the whole problem with that assertion is, do they deserve an answer? When these people continuously write up these fake news stories about everything under the sun, that Donald Trump is the evil orange man and he's Hitler, he's a fascist and all this other nonsense, do they deserve a legitimate answer? The thing is, right, Donald Trump is on that plane. This person that got called Piggy or whatever just kept blurting out questions. I'm sorry, you need to be a little bit more respectful with your questions. If you're going to give respect, expect disrespect back. That's what I say about that. That's what Donald Trump was handing out. Right? You can't go with these ridiculous questions. Donald Trump has answered these very same questions repeatedly, just over and over and over and over and over again, and they continuously ask these questions. He's getting sick and tired of talking about Epstein, for crying out loud. The courts have sealed those files, for goodness sakes. He can't do anything else. Right? This whole nonsense with Congress having this discharge petition, that isn't going to give us anything. It's going to give us the investigative files. Everything's going to be redacted. We're not going to get anything from that. But yet Democrats keep pushing because they believe in their heart of hearts that Donald Trump was on that island and was abusing underage girls. Well, you know, that's never going to be proven. Sadly to say to all of you people, that will never be proven either way. He will never be exonerated, but he will never be convicted either. And to push back against the E. Jean Carroll nonsense, has she listened to that story? That is just an unbelievably ridiculous story that for some reason in the middle of Manhattan, right, on Fifth Avenue or something like that, this really busy department store, there was nobody around to see this. Nobody saw it. She had a key to a changing room, for goodness sakes, that they just snuck into, right, when Trump Tower was right across the street. The story is absolutely unbelievable, right? They couldn't go after him criminally. New York, the state legislature, changed their law to allow people to bring 30-year-old cases for abuse or whatever. And the story just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't line up. The dress she supposedly had on hadn't even been made yet. Right, so none of that makes any sense. The falsifying business records doesn't make any sense. Right, once again, I always talk about it like this. If they would have brought the misdemeanor of falsifying business records, you have an open and shut case. The problem is they tried to elevate that falsifying of business records to a felony based upon charges that Donald Trump was exonerated for. Don't you think that makes little sense right there? Don't you think that's a perversion of our criminal justice system? That, hang on, he was exonerated for these crimes, but yet you use those to elevate something else to a felony to go after Trump. Hang on, that's a perversion in terms right there of the criminal justice system. So the fact that they've put him through all this nonsense and then still ask disrespectful questions, I think it's great that he pushes back, calls them names. They're consistently calling him names. Right? The corporate press, if they would be honest with their reporting, you wouldn't have a problem. You wouldn't be hearing this from me. If they would ask serious questions, they would be taken seriously. Once again, folks, if they were not so disrespectful, they would not receive disrespect. You see how that works right there? That's how that's supposed to go. And I just love this. I love liberals. They have to just pull things right out of the ether to make an argument. They don't have an argument otherwise. And, addressing the beginning of this clip, right, talking about, promises made, promises kept. Well, Donald Trump has kept most of his promises. Has he ended the war in Ukraine? No, but he promised to try. He said he was going to do it. That's just confidence. We all know what he meant. We all know that he meant he was going to go in and work tirelessly to try to end that war. And he has done that. He has worked tirelessly to end the war in Gaza. He has done that. He has also ended 8 other wars. We could talk about the mass immigration. Promise made, promise kept. Going after the deep state. Promise made, promise kept. Draining the swamp. He is in the middle of doing that right now. We are getting accountability for James Comey, Letitia James, John Brennan, Adam Schiff, Eric Swalwell. All these people Donald Trump is going after. And what does the corporate press do? Instead of addressing these issues honestly, they say, oh, it's just Trump's political revenge. Instead of going after the underlying issue as to why the Justice Department is actually even going after these people. You read one of these news articles and it's just the very beginning is Trump's political enemies and it's just retribution campaign and blah, 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 blah. And then all the way down at the very end of the news article, they finally tell you the underlying issue. And it's only in a short paragraph and they barely address any of the particulars as to why these people are actually being indicted and brought into a criminal court. It's all nonsense. This is why Trump calls them fake news. This is why I continue to do what I do to address these issues, folks. This is all nonsense, and I love all of it. I love this nonsense. These people just freaking out, losing their ish, if you will, and just throwing a temper tantrum. Oh my goodness. Just throwing a temper tantrum isn't going to help anything. You're not making a real argument here. That's not what these people are doing, not in the least. And I love every single minute of it because when you're not making a real argument, yeah, it's easy to break that down and dismantle that whole thing. But I love all this, folks. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I think that's all I got on this one. Make sure and smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new around here. share this video anywhere and everywhere you can. That'd be the best thing you could do to help this channel expand and grow. The next best thing would be click that join button. Sign up and become a member, folks, because, you know, we need pushback on the machine. The machine operates with $1 million budgets, and this channel absolutely does not. So any help is grateful, folks. But I think that's all I got. So you guys remember this one thing, that look, no matter what you're going through, no matter what happens in your life, you know, God has a plan for all of it. You know, whatever that may be. If it's something you're depressed, or, you know, you're feeling despair or whatever, that is meant to put you through something, to give you life experience, to make sure you can handle what's coming next. You never know what's going to come next, right? God never puts us through anything He knows we can't handle. Exactly. And He loves each and every one of you out there. So we must be grateful the fact that Jesus died on the cross to save us. That is just awesome, in my opinion. So, you know, I got to spread the word just a little bit. Try to bring people to Jesus Christ, because that is the truth, the light, and the only way to get into heaven, folks. But I think that's all I got. You guys, like I said, make sure and smash the like button and do all that goodly godly stuff. And you guys try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.